Okay, so we're holding in Tanya, we're discussing how is it possible to obtain true happiness? What's the problem? The problem is in life, we don't have everything that we want. If we had everything that we wanted, we could have obtained true happiness. What do you do when you're not happy with certain things, the way your life is going? And over here you have a few choices. What is it that's going wrong? A few different options. So we already explained what happens if you have things in the materialistic world that are not going good. Then a Jew must believe that this is what God wants. This is what God desires. God knows what's best. And this is what was meant to be. The question is, what happens if one is not happy with their own personal lives? Not materialistic things. I'm not happy with myself. I'm not a good person. What do you do then? So obviously, it depends what's bothering you. If you're not a good person, so fix it. If you did something wrong, just don't do it again. If you have a way to make up with a person that you hurt, make up with the person. So that's obviously a no-brainer either. Just do the right thing. But the question is asked, what happens if I'm trying to control myself, but as time goes on, I have the same exact struggles every single day, and not only every single day, but every single hour. For one person, it could be I struggle with anger. Another person is they struggle not to keep their eyes where they shouldn't be looking. For another person, they struggle with laziness. But they overcome it, perhaps. But why do I have to suffer with this? Every single day the same struggle? Every day the same struggle? So the Alter Rebbe, the author of the Tanya, Rabbi Chaim of Liadi, says that we must make a difference between something that we do wrong and an urge to do something wrong. To do something wrong, there is no excuse. And when it happens, we're also not supposed to be sad because, like we explained, sadness itself is not good. And the Alter Rebbe explained that there's two forms that are used. Sadness and depression. In Hebrew you have the same thing. Atzvut is sadness and dikoon is depression. According to Judaism, depression is never allowed. Sadness, it's only allowed if it's going to make you do something better. You feel sad, and therefore, staying sad itself is never allowed. I'm sad because I'm not happy of this situation. And therefore, what are you going to do about it? Just say that you're sad and go to sleep and wake up the next morning, your problem is there. Ain't going to help. The problem's going to be there the next day. You're going to be back to square one. I'm sad, and therefore I am fixing it. But the only way a person is truly allowed to be sad is only if it's going to bring an action to fix the problem. Many times in life, a lot of people, they say, I have a problem, so I'm going to drink away my problems. I always tell people the problem is your problems know how to float. So when you wake up the next morning, you're not drowning your problems. When you wake up, they swam through, they treaded the water very nicely, and you wake up, the problem's still there. You're back to square one. It's not going to help. So sadness is only allowed if it's going to bring a positive result. If it's going to bring action. If it's going to bring you to bring about that you should change the way you actually conduct your life. That's the only time you're allowed to be sad. Once you decide that you're fixing it, you're not allowed to look back. You're not allowed to be sad. Because sadness does not let you live a life the way God wants you to. So sadness is never allowed. Even when you did something wrong. Fix it and move on. So that's clear. The question is, what do I do with my inner struggles? How can I be in peace with myself if I'm already not 15, and perhaps not 30, and perhaps not 40, and perhaps not even 80 or 90, even 100, and I struggle with myself every single day? I have thoughts that come to my mind which are not the way they're supposed to. What is this all about? Why is God doing this to me? So the Alter Rebbe explained in Tanya that the fact that you have a thought entering your mind, that's normal. That's 100% normal. The fact that you acted on that thought, that's a no-no. The fact that you have an urge to do something wrong, that's the way God made you. In simple English, like people say, that's the way you were wired. That's the way God wired you. That's the way you're wired. Different people have different temptations. Different people have different tests. This is the test that God put you through. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe says, if you're going to say, I'm sad because I have this test every single day, I have these temptations, then you're not honest with yourself. Why are you not honest with yourself? Because you're arrogant. What does it mean you're arrogant? You think that you're a tzaddik. God created you as the most righteous person. If God would create you as a righteous person, a real tzaddik, someone that never has a desire to sin, then you would never have a temptation. But God created almost everyone in this world that we have temptations. So by having the temptation and being upset about it, you're not realistic. Acting on the temptation, that's a whole different story. That's a big no-no. Just because you have an urge to do something doesn't give you a right to do it. But here we're talking about the urge to want to do something. The urge to want to do something is a normal thing. To act on it is not. Each individual is responsible for their actions. So no matter how strong your urge is, God gives you the power to overcome it. You have an urge to scream at someone, God gives you the power to overcome it. You have an urge to look at things they're not supposed to, God gives you the power to overcome it. Every individual, whichever urge, whichever their temptation that they have, God gives them the power to overcome it. So when someone gets sad that they have a temptation to do something, they're not realistic with themselves. And if you're not realistic with yourselves, obviously you're going to be happy. You're not going to be unhappy. So there's a concept which is called people have expectations. They expect for everything to be perfect. When you have your expectations are too high, what happens when they're not met? No? You get disappointment, you get sad. But if your expectations are realistic, if it's not met, you're still going to be happy.
Yeah, but how do you determine what is realistic?
Okay, that's what we're going to get to in a second. Let me give a few examples. Someone's getting married. It's a normal thing. Getting married. Not that it's a normal thing to get married. That's obvious. That's self-understood. You're getting married, and now you envision my marriage. I'm never ever going to have a disagreement with my wife. We're going to be happy, lovey-dovey, whatever you want. Honey, what can I do for you? And she's going to go back, honey, what can I do for you? Our whole lives are going to be like that. We're never going to have any disagreements on where we should spend our money, where we should go on vacation, where we should live, where we should go for dinner. We're never going to have. We're going to get along excellent. We're never going to have any disagreements. Life's going to be great, excellent. We're never going to have that. That's not going to happen to us. What happens to such a person? What happens when they have the first argument?
Disappointed.
They get disappointed. There you go. But if you have realistic expectations, yes, we're going to have an argument, perhaps. We're going to disagree on different things. But we're going to learn that although we have disagreements, we're going to learn how to work things out. That's realistic. You realize that you're going to have a struggle. It's impossible, for example, for a couple to be married and never to have a struggle. It's just, perhaps it's possible, but it's not the norm. Two people living together, automatically you're going to have difference of opinions. But the only thing is, you have to learn how to work it out. You know, I told you the story in the past. There was a guy who went out with a girl, and he told her, listen here, when we get married, all the big decisions you make, I'm only going to make the small decisions. All right? The girl's in seventh heaven. They get married. First thing is, they have to decide where to live. He says, we're living in this city. She says, no, we're living in that city. I said, we're living in this city, or if that's over with. Okay, so she goes to that city. All right, what happened to the big decisions? She keeps her mouth shut. All right, they go to buy couches. He wants leather couches. She doesn't like leather couches. She wants to buy material couches. He says, it's either the leather couches or nothing. Wow, okay. Same thing happens when they have to buy their pots and pans. Which quality to buy? So she said, I don't understand. Didn't we make up that I am going to make all the big decisions, you're going to make the small decisions? He says, yes, I'm sticking to that. What I meant by a big decision, should America invade Iraq? That's a huge decision. That I leave up to you to decide what to do. Should we vote Republican or Democrat? That I leave up to you. The small decisions, where we should live, where we should spend our money, that's the decisions that I'm going to make. So obviously, a couple has to realize there's going to be issues, and they have to learn how to work it out and not say that's a small decision. but have to really learn how to talk to one another. Another example, people go on vacation. People go on vacation, we're going to have an excellent time, we're going to have zero stress, we're going to come back, we're never going to have, we're on vacation. No arguments, everything is going to be calm, it's going to be beautiful. So I tell people before they go on vacation, since I dealt with people that came back from vacations, and couples told me from the minute we got into the taxi, we were arguing about where to go, what to do, how much to sleep, how little to sleep. I tell, listen here, you're going on vacation, you're going for 7 days. If you have 2 days that it's not raining, say thank God. Sometimes you go to a place and it's raining all 7 days. So if you're preparing yourself that perhaps it's going to rain more than 1 day, you're not going to be disappointed. But if you expect you're going to Florida, Miami, you're spending so much money, or you're going to the Caribbean and it's raining every day, you can get very disappointed. I came here to sit in the hotel. But if you realize that perhaps some of the days are not going to be so nice, then when you have a nice day, it's already good. You come to a hotel, especially, some ladies, they are very particular in their hotel. They don't like the hotel. This is a hotel, this is 5-star. I wouldn't even rate it 2-star. You come in, the place is clean, it's neat. You have a nice view outside, say thank you. If whatever else comes is extra. So you're not disappointed. The food is not, don't expect that the food is going to be served hot, exactly what I want, when I want. Expect it's going to be normal. Hopefully most of the stuff is going to be good. From the 7 days that I'm there, hopefully half of the days is good. When your expectations aren't too high, then you could be happy. But when someone has non-realistic expectations, they're never going to be able to be happy. So what does that have to do with us Jews? I'm not giving class in psychology, even though Tanya is psychology in a sense. Hasidic psychology, philosophy. The Alter Rebbe says as following: if you as a Jew think to yourself that you're never going to have a temptation, you're never going to have an urge to sin, you're not realistic with yourself. God made you in such a way that you're going to have an urge to sin. But you must overcome it. Although you have the temptation, God gives you the strength not to fall through and sin. And that is in your hand. The temptation, you could have the temptation like we'll see in a minute. You could have the temptations for your rest of your life. A Jew till the age of 120 can have temptations day in and day out. And that's normal. To act on it, that's not normal. You should have known better to control yourself. And even if you went through and you've sinned, you got to make sure to fix it. But that's not what tonight's class. Tonight's class is the fact that you have an urge to do something wrong. That's normal. And we have to realize, yes, I have this urge, and therefore, the reason why God made me to have this urge is that I should have the strength to overcome it and not fall through on this temptation. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe says that when a person has a temptation, they should never be sad. Even if his or her entire life, they're constantly fighting with their own personal struggles. Why? Because this is the reason why you came down to this world. As shocking as it may sound. The reason why God put you down into this world was for one reason and one reason only. And that is, in order that you should have the temptation, you should have the challenge, and overcome and be successful in the challenge that you actually have. So every time you sit back and you don't sin, this in itself is from the greatest rewards possible that you could actually do. It's from the greatest things possible. It says in the Talmud that if a person sits and doesn't sin, they get a reward for doing a good thing. Why? Because the fact that you didn't sin is itself a great thing. And one of the ways that you can actually do that is, like we spoke many times, is by keeping busy. Because when you're not busy, that brings problems. And therefore I explained in many classes that the Rebbe never let people retire. Although they were stable multimillionaires, keep yourself busy. Keep yourself busy. If you don't have a work, wherever the case is, volunteer, study. Because when a person is not busy, it's going to lead to other things. And therefore, when a person has a challenge, even if they're not busy, it's still not an excuse. And that's why they have certain thoughts entering their mind. Our job is to overcome and not let these thoughts be materialized in any way possible. And then the Alter Rebbe says, every time that we have a temptation, but we push it out. What happens when you have a temptation? What do? So you have two choices now. Either you think about it more. You know what happens when you think